Hi, I'm Francis, campaign manager. Hello, Jane. Campaign manager for 24/7 Comics. And I'm here to talk about science fiction comics. I have some other comic creators here with science fiction comics of their own. We have one running right now, which is called Zero Ghost. We'll talk about that. But first, let me go ahead and bring my guests in, and then we can each talk about. We all the guests we have today have science fiction comics that are live on Kickstarter right now. So we'll talk about those comics. We'll talk about Zero Ghost, and we'll talk a little about writing for science fiction and comics. Let's bring them in. So I'm going to bring in Tony James.
Hey, what's up? It's me, Tony, writer of Star Noir. Thank you for having me, Francis.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to add Nicholas Doan.
Doan?
Doan. I've never asked how to pronounce Doan. Is it just Doan?
It's Doan. It's simple.
All right.
You did it right the first time, which is more than I can say for most people.
Yeah, Doan. Yeah, I can imagine. Welcome. Nicholas has a comic, Daisy Cassidy, a kind of kids space opera.
That's right.
All right, welcome.
Yeah, it's about Daisy Cassidy, who she is a space adventurer, and she's given the all-important job of staying home and babysitting her little brother, who is then immediately kidnapped by aliens.
but it's his fault too. It made me so mad reading, because he really is mischievous. Like he kind of brings it on. So let's bring in our final guest, Joshua Rubin. Here we are. Welcome, Joshua.
Welcome.
And Joshua, tell us a little about Time Sensitive, your comic.
It's an existential, high concept, mind-bending, heartbreaking time travel adventure. And I'm happy to go much deeper than that when you're ready.
Yeah, we will. Absolutely. So welcome. And we also, not only are we all, I should mention, I'm campaign manager for 24/7 Comics. The campaign we have running right now is, I'm not the writer of. It's called Zero Ghost. I'll talk about that. But I am a comics writer, and I have written science fiction. So we're all comic creators. We're all writers. We all use Kickstarter for our comics. And so I think there's a lot to talk about. Let's start by doing a little bit of a deeper dive into each of our comics. So I brought Tony on first. I'll start with you, Tony. So let me, as I explained to the boys right before we went live, this is my first time hosting. Carl Choi, he's the publisher of 24/7 Comics. He's the one that normally hosts these live streams for us. I've been a guest, but this is my first time in the driver's seat. So give me, forgive me if things are a little bumpy. Oh wow, there's a great question here, but I'm going to save it. Thank you, Hurricane, for that. I'm going to save it to when we talk about inspirations. It's about inspirations for writing for sci-fi, so we'll get to that. First, let's start by talking about our comics, and so let's go with, all right, here we go. I'm going to share screen here. There it is. All right. So this is Star Noir. Why don't you tell us a little about it, Tony?
Yeah, so Star Noir. This is LA Confidential meets the X-Files. It's about a 1940s detective that teams up with a gray alien to stop a shapeshifter who's killing LAPD officers in Central Station. It's a real love letter to 1940s cinema, Blue Dahlia, Detour, and also kind of like my own personal, interest in like alien conspiracies. I also really love the X-Files. So I brought these two together into this 6-part murder mystery. All the books have been doing great so far. We're up to the 4th book now. Each book is about 50 pages or so. And if you're watching this and you want to check it out for free, there's a 9-page preview of the first book on the campaign. So yeah, this is the 4th book. This is sort of like I guess in the story you can call it like the midpoint, climax. A lot of story threads that we were building up to this point really kind of come to a head. Our main characters get into some serious scrapes. There's aliens that live in secret. There's a lot of fancy cars and just a just kind of a real glamorized view of 1940s Los Angeles.
I'm obsessed with, as we talked about earlier, so many of the elements in that you've brought together in a story. But it's also the 1940s noir, which is an amazing setting, is also kind of an appropriate time to set a story like this, because I feel like that's when the first sort of rumors and stories of spotting alien ships, space flying saucers and all that sort of really became a thing in the late 40s and early 50s in that same time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we put the gray alien as kind of the main partner for our human detective, because gray alien is very fitting for this kind of pulpy noir setting. It takes a lot of the alien abductee stories that people have talked about over the years and finds a way to kind of bake it into this 1940s noir setting.
That's great. All right. Thanks, Tony. We'll talk more about the story and your inspiration and all that, but let me introduce the next one. So I think I can just flip windows here and move on to Nicholas and Daisy Cassidy.
There she is.
There she is. So tell us about Daisy. This is a sci-fi comic book aimed for children.
Yeah, it's all ages, and it's tons of fun. But I take an all ages approach of, telling a story that's appropriate for everybody, but it's not like dumbed down. It's not simplified. It's something that anybody who likes fun things, funny and adventurous, should like. But definitely, for all ages. And Daisy Cassidy gets into a number of scrapes trying to find her brother and rescue him. She befriends a young alien named Quirk, who is also searching for his sister, who's also been abducted. So they kind of team up, and they go into all kinds of weird things.
And very funny adventures. This guy who kind of looks like a cat, an alien cat, forces them to perform The Odd Couple for him because he's a theater fan. It's very funny, and also very action packed.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of one of the great things about writing sci-fi is that you can do really big things and really fun things and really weird things that are explained, scientifically. I'm no scientist myself, so I like to.
We're creatives. Let me go ahead and bring Joshua in then to talk about Time Sensitive. Here we are.
Cool. Hi. Okay, so this is issue 2 of Time Sensitive. It is a story about a LAPD cop whose wife disappears at a gas station. And when he goes looking for her, everyone tells him that he was never married, that the woman he remembers waking up with that morning has been dead for 6 years, except for this mysterious teenage girl who shows up and says, "I know why your wife was deleted." So that's usually all I pitch, just the mystery book. And it is a mind-bending sci-fi adventure. And our first issue on Kickstarter was me on a hell of a learning curve, figuring out how to do it. I spent a year learning how to Kickstarter before I launched one, spent a year learning how to write a comic, finding a great artist to work with. And somehow it all came together, and our first issue took off like gangbusters. We funded in like 2 hours. We had doubled it within 48 hours. By the end, we had funded at 465%, which I'm told is in the top 15% of all comics on Kickstarter. 850 backers, and it was huge. I learned a ton, and sat in my dining room with my kids for weeks packing up boxes, and then immediately dived in and did it again.
That's great. And it is, you mentioned your artist. All these comics are beautifully illustrated as well. I really love the look of this, not just the art, but the design of it and all. It all had a very sci-fi sort of feel. It all, even just background patterns and stuff sort of suggested all multiple universes and multiple, paths that timelines can run on.
Yeah, you're talking about the backgrounds in the back matter.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the front matter, the like credits
Yeah.
page and everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
really cool.
So I hired this amazing designer named Emma Price, and that was all about, again, a whole learning curve. Like, I had the book done, I had sold it, the Kickstarter was over, and I thought, okay, now I'm at the easy part. Now I just put it out there. I just have someone put it together, and I very quickly realized, oh, there's a lot more involved, and it costs money, and you've got to find someone who's good. And the fact that I found Emma Price was amazing. She blew me away. And the work that she did with like all of like the title pages and the back matter, there's like in the hardcover there's like 50 pages of material kind of behind the scenes, all beautifully designed. The art is by Jorge Coelho, a Portuguese artist who won the Amadora Award this last year for Best European Artist for his adaptation of The Great Gatsby. That happened luckily after I hired him. He's amazing.
Mhm.
And it really is a testament to like the importance of finding an artist who is like at the top of their game.
Yeah, and who's invested in it, because it's a lot. Doing the interior art for a comic is a big commitment, and to find somebody that, and to be able to engage them. I mean, whether you are doing it because you're giving them a page rate, or whether you're doing it because you're co-creating and they're invested in the story the way you are, it's important to find the right fit. Absolutely, I've found that too.
I'll quickly
I'll quickly talk about our comic, Zero Ghosts, that we have running, and then we'll get a little deeper, because I feel like you've already touched on a lot of the stuff I'm interested to talk about. The challenge as independent creators on Kickstarter of finding a team and all that is very interesting. And I also just want to talk about your writing process and your inspirations and what brought you to comics. Here's our campaign we have running right now. This is called Zero Ghost. It is a story set in a world where magic exists, but it's dominated by the criminal underworld. As the writer Justin Jordan said, if magic is supposed to be a secret, well, who keeps secrets better than criminals? So they're the ones that control the magic. There's 5 families that sort of like dominate the underworld of this futuristic city. And Kira Kane, who's our heroine, is the scion, the heir apparent of one of these families, and the whole family gets wiped out by a rival gang, and she gets kidnapped, and they want to sacrifice her to a death angel, because that will give them more magic and more power. And what happens instead is that she bonds with this death angel Shrike and goes on a revenge tour. So it's kind of John Wick meets Big Trouble in Little China. And this is the collected edition with the first 3 issues. So the story's ongoing. We've collected the first 3 issues into a graphic novel. Justin Jordan, who created it, is known for The Strange Talent of Luther Strode for Image Comics, which he co-created with Trad Moore. And he's the writer. Brian Ching is the artist. He's best known for his work on Star Wars. He's a really original, interesting artist with an amazing art style. And then Will Quintana did the colors, and the colors are so vivid in this, and really kind of bring this neon-soaked futuristic city kind of Blade Runner world to life. We also have this variant cover by Zinchin, who's a fantasy artist. And then we have a artist edition, which features all of Brian's original black and white art, as well as everything in the graphic novel and behind the scenes stuff and all that. So that's what we have going on. Before we dive into it, let me ask you guys, is there anything in the rewards that you're offering for your book right now that you'd like to highlight? For us, it would be this artist edition that has, you have the entire story, all 3 issues in full color, with the just the graphic novel itself. But then this artist edition also has all of his black and white art without the lettering and without the colors. And then we have the Zinchin variant cover. And this is our regular deluxe edition. And all of these versions have 20 plus pages of behind the scenes stuff that gives you a glimpse into the process with character designs and script pages and stuff like that.
Cool.
So what about you, gentlemen? I'll go backwards through time sensitive. Anything you want to draw attention to for people who are interested in this and want to know where they should come in? Everybody, by the way, you all have catch-up tiers, I'm guessing, if someone's coming to the story for the first time.
Absolutely. Yeah, click on collectible covers on the left side. I'll talk about those.
All right.
Yeah, scroll down a bit. So I've got some amazing art stars who have come in to do amazing work. This is Felipe Andrade, Portuguese artist, one of the top of the game, known for the many deaths of Lila Starr, on top of Marvel, Fantastic Four, everything. He did this like film noir style cover, very David Hockney. But as you can see, we did a holofoil,
a foil treatment,
version of it. Limited edition, hand numbered, only 300 getting printed. You want to scroll down more? So this is Stefano Simone, incredible Italian artist who I'm in love with. He has a new book out now called No Place that I discovered him from. And he is just like wild. This is a new character we're introducing in the book in episode 2. And this piece, like all the other covers, we're also printing as posters you can put up on your wall, big oversized ones. And this one is definitely going on my wall. And
those colors are amazing.
Yeah. And then this is Simon Roy, indie superstar. You know him from Prophet, which was relaunched in the 90s at Image. He took the time travel idea, as far as you can go, classic time travel fantasy. Yeah, I love getting to see his work come to life. And then one more, it's actually not below it. This one was only for the first 72 hours. So this one's gone. Igor, amazing. But the next one, actually, if you scroll all the way to the top. I hired my cousin to come in, my little baby cousin, and did a cover for us. There, you just go back.
That's
down.
This one?
No, a little bit further down.
Okay. Yeah.
Go. There it is. So she is a colored pencil artist, and she does these photorealistic images that have always blown me away. And she's always, displayed in galleries and at museums, but has always gone to Comic-Cons and been a cosplayer. So I got her to come do her very first comics debut and bring her two worlds together. And it was our stretch goal, and we hit 400%, and we just got there like a day or two ago.
Oh, great. That's gorgeous. All righty. So let's go to Daisy Cassidy.
There she is.
The rewards you want to highlight, Nicholas?
I mean, honestly, this is the first time I did like a really stripped down Kickstarter. Kept it very simple and basic because I just wanted to fund, a direct market print run and not a huge print run. So the thing that's really the most exciting to me is that issue 3 is finally here. Because Daisy Cassidy's been coming along really very slowly for anyone who read the first issue when it came out. But things are very different now. And actually, the artist just emailed me this morning. I haven't even looked at the art, but she said issue 3 is 100% done now. And she's already, laid out and been working on inking through issues 4 and 5. So, this is kind of it's time to go.
That's great. You'll be able to get to fulfillment quickly when the campaign ends too. And you do have your other books, if you want to just quickly talk about those, Nicholas, available, Misfit Island. Yeah,
because I have lots of other cool things. So you can always add the Misfit Island. There's even some of my mature readers stuff. Pray for Death is available, and The Kid and the Ripper. And there are tiers for those, and you can add them on as well.
Great.
So yeah, I did really kind of a simple one, and the most exciting thing for me is having a cover for issue 2 for the first time, because issue 1 and 2 were originally just published as a double.
Oh, interesting. Are they individual floppies for this new as a bundle?
Yep, everything's going to be individual now, and it's going to the direct market later in the year. So
that's great.
Why, getting Daisy Cassidy is happening for real, and that's why we only needed a few bucks to get there.
to get to be ready for it. Well, that's wonderful. And congrats. So, all right, here we go. Star Noir. What should we tell them, Tony?
The Big Sleep is the featured reward there right at the top. That's the catch-up tier. It's over 200 pages, 4 perfect bound books. If you've not read the story before, this is definitely the entry tier. There's also a second tier right below that one called the Polite Invitation. So if 4 books is too much and you just want to just dip your toe in the water, you can do just the first book. And that one ships out right away because I already have those books.
Because it's done already.
Already done, yeah.
Fabulous. And this story's ongoing, correct? Meaning this is not the last.
No. There's 2 more books after this 4th one here. So 6-part murder mystery.
All right.
Yeah.
That's great. And we already talked about the Zero Ghost rewards. Like Nicholas was saying, we really made an effort with this one to keep the campaign very simple. So we've got the deluxe edition, and you're seeing that's the newsletter. If you subscribe to our newsletter, you get it at a discount. So that's what you're seeing here, because we're looking at this from being inside the campaign. In other words, you don't normally see that tier if you just look at if you just go to Kickstarter. But if you're a newsletter subscriber, then you can unlock it, and it gives you a discount. That's true for all of our titles at 24/7 Comics. But anyway, we just have the variant, which we had several on the last campaign, and the artist edition. And it's nice to have, like you're saying, a simple, clean campaign. We do have one more special that I want to mention, though. So Joshua has agreed to partner with us on a very special crossover promotion.
It's very cool.
So we have that going as well. If you back both of our campaigns, then you get this crossover print that I'm going to share window.
So we have a teenage female character who's pretty badass, and so does Zero Ghost. So
that's right.
Brian Ching and Will Quintana put them together in this amazing pinup. It's
so gorgeous. It's so funny. When I first looked at it, it looked like a formerly unknown crossover album between Bjork and Shirley Manson in the mid-90s.
Wait, which
but it's our 2 heroines. That's Kira on the right, and going on her revenge quest in Zero Ghost, and then that's Tallulah on the left, who is our hero's only friend. Once his wife disappears, no one else understands what he's talking about. Says she was never there, which is such a great premise.
And also, we learn her backstory now in her flashback at the beginning of issue 2. And we learn, like Kira, she has a murdered family that she's trying, in this case, not to avenge, but to use time travel to bring back. And to bring them back, why and how. Yeah.
It's very cool. I remember there's a movie called, I think it's called Mirage, that's from the 60s, where Gregory Peck goes to his office and nobody recognizes him. No one knows who he is. And that sort of question mark of what the hell's going on. Your setup reminds me of that. Like, you're immediately curious, like, what's happening,
Oh my God, I've got to look that up. What does it end up being, the solution in that?
Well, it's not time travel. It is not a science fiction thing. I honestly don't remember. I've watched it several times over the years. My mom introduced it to me when I was a kid. I watched it again about 5 years ago. I only ever remember the setup. I never remember. It's like watching it new every time I watch it again. But it's more like a thriller, like a Parallax View type of a thing. It's a conspiracy.
So I mean, the setup is like a familiar setup. Like, there's lots of, someone loses his wife at a gas station, and complete mystery. It's always like it hooks you. But I wanted to go in a sci-fi direction because I don't think anyone had ever done that before.
I don't think I've seen it either. I really do love it. That premise is very original. So yeah, Will added a lot of fire to the the original black and white drawing. I didn't envision it looking so apocalyptic, but I love it.
The question I have is how he decided that Tallulah was the taller one.
right, yeah, but Kira is kind of diminutive in the comic. She's the shortest character in Zero Ghost, so maybe that was the reason. This print comes if you back both of our campaigns at the physical level, you get this physical print with your time sensitive rewards. If you back it at the digital level, then you'll get a digital print. But that's it, exclusive just while these campaigns are live. So check it out.
And
All right.
yeah,
So
only for 5 more days as well.
that's right, because
long
time
is yours up for?
sensitive. Will you have late pledges going?
We will have late pledges. Yes.
That's a fairly new feature. It's been about like a year and a half, but I like that option. You know, that makes a big difference to for anyone who misses a campaign. You can still grab it. Do you guys usually use, Tony, Nicholas, the late pledges option?
Yeah.
Yep, I do. Yeah, it gets a little pricier with the late pledges, so it always encourages people to like back it during the live campaign.
Right.
It's also
absolutely.
like, it's really nice that you can leave it on until you have your product in and you're ready to ship, because you can just keep taking orders.
Yeah.
The only thing though is that all the new orders that come in don't add to your visible total. So it ends up not like increasing you publicly in terms of public perception.
Because
they did
your
on mine.
display of your success of the campaign.
They do?
Yeah, on mine, every time I got a late pledge, it added to the total.
Yeah, same for me as well. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Maybe that's a change from the last time you did it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, it was back in
don't know.
September.
So we've got some great questions here that I want to get to, but we'll get to as we discuss the topics. So I think that maybe a good starting point would be just to talk about comics specifically, and then we'll get into sci-fi. What brought you guys to comics? Is this how long did you come from writing for another medium and then move over to comics? That's what I personally did, coming from TV and film. How about you guys? Let's start in reverse. We'll start with you, Joshua. I know you come from a video game background.
That's right. Yeah, so I've been doing games for 15 plus years. My work, I started in games with like Assassin's Creed 2. I've worked on Destiny and Telltale Games, Game of Thrones, and Walking Dead, Outriders. I've got a long track record, which I...
You didn't work on Minecraft for Telltale, did you? My son is obsessed with it. Did you?
Yes,
oh,
I did.
Oh my gosh, he'd be so excited that I had to guess. That's great. Yeah, he's so into the Minecraft story mode. I had to go and buy it on eBay because, of course, now you can't get it.
Yeah. I'm glad you were able to. So I've been doing video games forever. The thing about video games, though, is that you're always a small part of a big team. And I have, before that, I spent, 10 years in Hollywood, writing screenplays that never got made, that only ever got seen by, studio executives. And so I have all of these like incomplete projects, all of these ideas that have been burning holes in my head for so long. And I didn't want to, it's something about turning 50 and knowing that you have, less time ahead than you've got behind you, and wanting to do something that was mine and not wanting to depend on a studio to have to greenlight it or to need millions of dollars to do it. And comics are achievable. Comics are affordable. You can do it with one other person or 2 or 3 other people, and you can just make something and put it out there. And because of Kickstarter, you can actually connect directly with an audience. And so for me, it was really like, for my soul, I needed to do this. I needed to put something into the world. And I love learning new mediums of writing. Going from novels originally to journalism. I was a hip hop journalist in, the early 2000s, to screenwriting, to video games, to VR, like constantly learning new mediums. Looking at comics, I was like, here's a chance to do something totally new. And it was just an adventure that I got to, jump into.
That's great. I very much relate to that. I feel like I was, everything I'd written was sort of languishing in development and taking years to come to light. And with comic books, it felt like that path was shorter. Like you could actually get it out to an audience and have control over that, where you don't have any control in these other industries we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how about you, Nicholas?
All right. I actually started as a playwright.
No way.
And before that, actually an actor, but like I was all in on theater. And I'm a member of the Dramatists Guild. I've had a couple of short plays produced. But there was a point in college when I was studying playwriting where I just kind of suddenly realized that I could write comic books too if I wanted to, and it was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, now that I know how to work a pen, I can write comic books. And so I kind of dove into that and haven't really looked back. My first published comic book was a web comic for DC Comics, which was kind of rad, and it's all been downhill from there. So,
but you stayed in comics once you moved into that medium. Do you still do playwriting as well?
I work on some things here and there, but it's been 15 years since I produced a play.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I keep up my membership to the Dramatists Guild, and it's always something that I'm like, I'm gonna get back to that. And I every once in a while I pull out an unfinished script and start working at it, and then get annoyed with it again and go back to some comics.
Go back to writing comics, yeah.
Because just like Josh was saying, comics have that sort of immediacy. Even like theater, there's so much less going into it than a film, but there's still so many other collaborators and so many people that you have to rely on and depend on. And comics, comics opens up everything. Anything can happen. When I wrote Monster Elementary, it was seriously like, I can do anything I want in this comic because it's so weird that anything could happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no budget constraints, and there's so few collaborators to rely on. And it's a lot easier to take control of your own destiny to get it out there, especially with Kickstarter.
Where you can really build your own audience and stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about that. But here, let's hear from you, Tony. What was your path to the comic world?
Well, I've always been writing in some form or another. I'd either write like poetry, or like when I was in high school, I would write stage plays for my friends. And then when I went to college, I wrote directed a bunch of short films that my friends and I were in, like running around New York City with a camera. I had a family that was in the New York film business. So I got to kind of try a lot of different hats. And I was looking around the business, and I liked everything. I didn't love everything. And I felt like if I was going to pursue something, I really needed to love it. So because when it gets hard, loving it is what's going to make you keep going. So making films is really expensive, especially when you have big ideas. So I kind of took my lifelong passion for comics, and I was like, oh, why don't I just write comics, which is something I genuinely love already, is writing. So yeah, I just maybe about the better part of a decade ago, just started writing writing comics, just dove head first into the deep end, and I've been doing that ever since.
So you came to it as a big comic fan from the beginning, huh?
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring in one of our questions. So as a comic fan, then I'm sure you have a Holy Grail comic like that you'd love to have in your collection. What would that be?
I would probably say the first appearance of Batman, the 1949. I would probably that. If I could get some sort of maybe first edition of From Hell by Alan Moore, that would be great. I'd love to get my hands on that. That's a great book.
That's awesome. And the other panelists, anybody have an answer to that? I came to comics kind of late. I read them as a kid, but then I went the film route. I went to film school, and movies are sort of my first love. And I only came back to comics, as a middle-aged guy, where I was a good friend of mine who's a huge comic collector was saying, you've got to write for comics. And I said, I'm not a superhero fan. I don't, they don't really interest me. And he said, no. You've got to read Ed Brubaker. You've got to read Brian K. Vaughan. There's so much more than just superhero stuff. Yeah. And so that was what did it for me. I went to the library and I got out, the shelf had the whole Criminal series, and it had the whole saga series right up to the big break that happened. And I just like, well, I'll grab these and see how many of these I can read before they're due back in 2 weeks. And then the pandemic hit. And so I had this huge stack of comics that wasn't due back at the library for like 6 months, and nothing else to do. So I really dove in, and that was where I fell in love with the medium. And so I don't think I would have an answer for this question personally, even though I'm obsessed with comics. I'm not a comic collector in that way. The first edition of Batman or whatever, or like, I'm not that kind of a comic fan, I'm into it for the stories, and I'm really obsessed with what's been happening in comics, in particular in the last like 20 years.
Yeah.
Joshua or Nicholas, do you guys have a holy grail that you're that you seek out when you go to conventions?
Go ahead, Nick.
For me, it's not actually about an issue, because like you, first and foremost, what's most important to me in comics is the story, and pretty much anything you actually want to read, you can get a reprint. And I've been collecting for a long time, so I've got a lot of like really cool stuff. But the real holy grail for me is original art. Like I want a page of George Perez New Teen Titans comic book art. That's my grail. That's what I want.
That's cool.
And every time I walk past a convention where there's somebody with a booth with original art, I stop and think to myself, you don't have that much in your wallet. Keep walking.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I have stood at Terry Moore. I'm obsessed with Terry Moore, and I've flipped through his original art when he doesn't always do the convention appearances, but when he does, he has it there, and that's probably would be the top of my list of something I'd want to pick up if I was going to spend a little more.
I saw a bit of his art at one of those booths at WonderCon.
Yeah. Well, was he at WonderCon? I didn't see him in a booth,
don't
but
know.
He's I've seen him at Comic-Con, and he has it there, and he signed all my books, but I didn't I didn't spend on the original art that day. Maybe next time. All right. So now we're going to find out how to remove a comment. There we go. That worked. Learning, as I mentioned, this is my first time.
Well done. All right, I want to answer it though.
Please do. I'm going to bring it back then.
There you go. Even better.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering kind of my introduction to comics was back in high school, reading in floppies, Watchmen and Akira,
Wow.
and as they were coming out monthly, but they were being fed to me by a friend who was even nerdier than I was, who was collecting them and was like, "You've got to read this. You've got to read this." And I wish I had those still. Like I wish I had.
Oh yeah.
Held on to them and not just return them every month.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Just to have those.
Watchmen for me. I read it back in high school, but it was already collected in a graphic novel by the time I read it. Yeah, that's really cool.
But then, like you, I disappeared from comics and came back, as a grown up because of Brian K. Vaughan and and all these incredible writers, Jonathan Hickman, and I remember walking into a comic book shop thinking, I like all these superhero movies, but I want to write something that completely takes apart all of the conventions and the genres. Like, what's the best happening in comics right now? Because I want to catch up. And he just started, this incredible clerk at this comic shop, in the Valley, just started feeding me these one incredible writer after another. And I got completely, totally re-obsessed with comic books and never wrote my superhero movie.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Very cool. So, talking about, we have a question here about assembling your team. I feel like there's that most of the writers that I talk to, they're the creators, and then they hire an artist to come on board. That's been the norm. For me, it was a little different. I went down to Comic-Con. My comic, by the way, which I haven't even talked about, is not science fiction. It's called Wicked Town, and it's about witches in the San Fernando Valley in the 1970s. And it's also on Kickstarter, though there's not a live campaign right now. We're between issues. Anyway, so it's more like horror fantasy. And I went down to Comic-Con expressly to try and find an artist who was interested in collaborating. And so we're co-creators, and it's a story taken from a TV pitch I had way back when, but we very much developed it together. And so that's the investment. How about you guys in assembling a team? Are the artists involved at all in storytelling and everything? Is it all you, and then you seek out the talent you want to bring on?
For me, it depends, because I've done kind of both ways. When I did Monster Elementary, actually originally it was a collaboration with Kanan Grawl, and he had to walk away from the project, and he gave me all the rights, and I hired a whole bunch of artists to do the different stories. So that was 100% like, I'm the boss, guys. You're drawing what I'm saying.
Sure. Yeah.
And I did the same with The Kid and the Ripper, because that was like my baby, and it was my story that I had to do. So I was like, I'm not taking anyone else's feedback on this.
Yeah.
But like Daisy Cassidy, I co-created that with Aaron Thompson, and it's kind of like a jam. It's super fun, because like I would write 10 pages, and then she'd come back and it's 15 pages now. And it was like this whole thing of sending her pages and then kind of adjusting the page count based on that. So it's a lot of fun, because she just changes the flow, and she has an amazing sense for that. So it was like, I can rely on that. I can trust that. I know that she's going to do a good job with it.
That really speaks to me, because so the way that I work with my artist is she does all the art and the colors herself. She's kind of a one-stop shopping as far as the art. So I figured I needed to do something else to pull my weight, and I learned how to letter. So our process is I write, it goes to her, she does all the art, it comes back to me, and I do the lettering, which is partly really helpful for me because I'm such a perfectionist. So it allows me to keep rewriting to the very last second since I'm doing the lettering. But it also, I find like the way that the comics industry normally does it, where everything is very siloed, I find it hard to picture, because once the image comes back, the lettering changes based on where there's space to put stuff, or maybe, we didn't even need this line, and I'd rather see more of the art than have all these words, and so that'll end up changing. And other times the art has to be modified because we need all those words, but the art is you're going to lose something important. So there's a real back and forth that goes on. I mean, at every stage for me and Andrea with our process, and I can't picture how it works, otherwise. Without it looking a little bit clunky, because it's all being done by someone separate, and there's no like way to go back and tweak normally with the normal process. So I'm kind of amazed that comics are usually read as well as they do.
Well, that's
tell me about you guys. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. When you work with someone that does it all themselves, they work all that out in their own brain, and it's super easy.
Yeah.
I was going to say the benefit of indie comics, unlike the Marvel or DC, is you have time, and you can be a perfectionist, and you can iterate. And so like you, I don't letter myself, but I work with a letterer, and I always do, like, I do the script that goes to the artist does layouts. I give notes on the layouts in order to kind of reshape what exactly the idea is. After he inks, it goes to the colorist and then the letterer. And I always, once I read it with all the letters in, I do a rewrite pass. And I'm removing things, I'm reconceptualizing things, but being able, the way they say editing, is the final, script step in a movie, you really do get to rewrite a comic on your last pass. And that's amazing. And
100%.
You do that in the Marvel DC silo or vertical, where it goes really, really fast and everyone just has their one shot. They barely talk to each other, writers and artists and colorists. There's no like flow of communication there. Like it's all controlled by the editor.
Yeah, and they're all very much divided. And of course, there's those timelines you're talking about. And part of the beauty of Kickstarter too is Kickstarter audiences, They want to buy directly from the creator. There's not that time pressure that it has to be on the shelf exactly 2 months later or a month later or anything. They want the comic to be the best that it can be, and I think that shows in the product. What about you, Tony? What's your process like?
I write very kind of structured scripts. One of the things that I learned from Greg Capullo, who drew Batman: The Court of Owls with Scott Snyder, he was talking about working with Scott, who's a very meticulous, hands-on writer, and it drove him crazy. So he said, he told Scott, just focus on the end result, like not how we get there. And that's kind of been my philosophy with working with an artist, where it's like I'm sort of focused on being the engine builder and letting them make the nice Ferrari and just making sure that it runs great. So it's like we have a page, and I just focus on like what we see in each panel. If we see A and then B, we should get C effect, and then I let the artist kind of bring their own interpretation and their own sort of camera angles or whatever that they want to bring into it. Just so long as that the moment comes through, the story beat comes through. I don't care if there's some some delineation from what was crystallized in my head, because it's really important to bring the artist into the fold of the comic that you're working on.
Oh yeah, otherwise you're not taking advantage of their talents, right? Like they're
yeah.
visual thinkers, and that's different usually from writers, and so absolutely you're benefiting from that. Well, that was those are all great answers. There's a question I'm gonna while we're talking about comics, we have a question about the pendulum shift towards digital. Right. So there's the popularity of digital comics you can buy on Amazon and stuff like that. But then there's this whole world of like digital distribution through things like webtoons and stuff, where especially younger kids, many of them read all of their comics on their phones. What's your thoughts on the digital shift?
I actually making comics for a few years now. I find that it's actually a personal preference. Regardless of age, whether they want to read it physical or digital. At conventions, I'm amazed at how many young kids are like buying my comics, but they want it physically. Or like when I do a crowdfunding campaign, like the physical tiers are always the runaway, and digital is always the secondary thing that happens. So it really kind of paints a picture of like just preference. Some people want to read it on an iPad. Some people want the physical. So I don't really see it as one dominating the other. Just personal preference, depending on what you like to read.
What about you guys, Joshua? Any thoughts there?
I like reading digital because I like being able to read in bed at night with the lights off while my wife is sleeping next to me. But I like collecting books with great art, and I spend way too much money on Kickstarter buying really cool indie books. When I will tell you that when I decided when I decided to get into comics a couple years ago, and I needed to find an artist, it meant I started really diving deep into exploring all of the comic artists that are out there. And God, did I start spending money. Like before I ever hired anyone, I was just like, packages arriving every other week of like these incredible books. You can see my really cool like comic carousel.
You have like the turnstile like in a comic store.
Yeah.
Except it's filled with all kinds of indie books and art books, and it's so cool. So I'm obsessed with physical, but I also love being able to follow stories on digital. So I don't think there's any pluses or minuses to one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my office is fairly small, and it's gotten filled up fairly quickly with books. So I need to buy digital just to get all the books I want to read, because I don't have the space for them. So that's also
was that VR goggles I saw there as well.
What's that now?
Is that VR goggles I saw there as well?
Oh no, I don't have any VR goggles. I don't know what you might have seen, but I've only worn VR goggles once at a film festival where they had like a room we could all go into and try them on, and they were interesting. But
I'm obsessed.
Well, yeah. So, but that makes sense to me with your background. Wow. Oh, wow, that's interesting. And are those the kind you fit a phone into, and then you're seeing the phone screen? Because I've seen
those are old.
Is that
that
right?
was
That's
10
old
years
news
ago.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm behind the times on VR. How about
Yeah.
you, Nicholas? Before we start talking, go down the VR rabbit hole.
I think the whole idea of a pendulum shift with digital and physical comics, I think that's kind of, I think it's almost like clickbait sort of, because it seems like all the digital has done is helped more people read comics. It hasn't really caused fewer people to read physical copies. And for myself, I don't like digital comics. I feel like when you're looking at the art printed on paper, you're seeing something more than you're seeing on a screen. And I mean, maybe that's just me and my old eyes, but I feel like if people want to read digital comics, let's give it to them. For me, what I want is big, beautiful, hardcover collected editions that are like giving me everything I ever dreamed of in the art. And then I buy old vintage graphic novels, and like the thing I'm obsessed with the most are the DC Comics Blue Ribbon digests. So I'm always, when I'm spending my money on, is vintage stuff and big fat oversized hardcovers.
Yeah. So, and I think one of you, Joshua or Tony, mentioned kids, and I do think that when you get into the teen years, they like to read stuff on their devices, but there's a huge, there's a whole generation who are coming up, my son's age, who grew up on graphic novels because of Dogman and all that, and they're obsessed, and all that stuff's physical. I mean, they're reading the physical books, and I think that is gonna. It's not only making them read at a younger age. It certainly was true with my son, who's a very advanced reader, and he was into Dave Pilkey from 3, but also hopefully is breeding a whole new generation of comics fans, people who appreciate the medium.
Yeah, I think Webtoons is a brilliant format. I think that's absolutely the best way comics have been delivered to digital. And with my Kickstarters, what I see is that I sell a lot of digital comics internationally because the shipping is outrageous.
Yeah. And Webtoons, a lot of people on Kickstarter, creators have started in Webtoons and then sold collected editions to those audiences physically on Kickstarter and done really well that way. And so, that sort of digital to physical, like Beneath the Trees When Nobody Sees, that followed that path, has been an interesting pipeline too. Let's keep going. Let's talk about inspiration. So first of all, I'm going to ask 2 questions in one. I'm going to go ahead and remove this comment. First of all, is science fiction your main medium that you write in? I already know it's not for you, Nicholas. I'm going to say, I don't know about you, Joshua. I'm going to say no to Tony as my guest. We'll see. We'll let you guys answer. And then tell us a little about the inspirations for you when you write in sci-fi, what you're inspired by. I have a comment here along those lines from Huratan. How much inspiration do you get from EC Comics sci-fi greats like Wally Wood or Al Feldstein? So all right, so let's start. I've already got you up, Nicholas. You want to go ahead and talk first about your whether how often you write in sci-fi and what your inspirations are there?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of what I do, a lot of it is all ages, and a lot is horror and serial killer. And kind of the thing I'm best known for is Monster Elementary, which is all ages and horror. But always loved sci-fi. I think we all grew up, even if we grew up with superheroes, there's science fiction element to that as well.
For sure.
Like with Daisy Cassidy in particular, there's a lot of Star Trek influence, and there's a lot of Buck Rogers. Like I love the old Buck Rogers TV show, regardless of how bad it is. I love it.
Yeah. Land of the Lost was a TV show that was sci-fi, that was cheesy, but I absolutely loved it when I was a kid.
Yeah, but I mean, what's not to love about spaceships?
Yeah. All right, Joshua, how about you? Is science fiction your primary storytelling genre?
I would say so, yeah. But when I talk about science fiction, it's like in the Philip K. Dick, Kurt Vonnegut mode. Like I like sci-fi that, you know, is brain twisting, head scratching sci-fi, the kind that makes, you know, makes you question your own reality, pulls the rug out from under you, you know, the invisible worlds you can only see with a particular lens kind of world. That's what I really like. And a lot of my writing tends to go to that place. Now, you know, I really like genre, but I also really like very human stories. My dad was a film curator when I was young, and at the museum he'd be showing European art house movies. And you know, I grew up going to see, you know, Truffaut and Eric Romer and Kieślowski. But at home he was showing, I'm showing my age here obviously, but he was showing Doc Savage and Bruce Lee and, you know, Sean Connery, James Bond. And so I love genre. I remember I was 4 years old when we went to stand in line for an hour to get into the first Star Wars on opening day, because he was definitely reading Variety and tracking this thing that was coming that was going to change the world. So I felt like I was there at the beginning. I got in early. And so everything I've tried to write has always been kind of merging those two worlds together. How do I tell genre stories that are about real people? What would a real person do in this situation? How do I make it feel like an indie film? How do I make it feel like Soderbergh or a European art house drama in a genre setting?
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, great genres. Storytelling should always do that. You know, that's what makes, in my opinion, distinguishes great genre storytelling, is that human element.
Yeah.
How about you, Tony? Apologize. I'm gonna once I ask the question, I'm gonna mute myself because there's a if I can figure out how. Yes, I can figure out how, because there's a helicopter. But yeah, tell us a little about your influence and to what degree sci-fi is your main focus.
Yeah, sci-fi is definitely my main focus. The first sci-fi film that ever blew my mind as a kid was The Matrix. I never saw the trailer. My dad just took me to the movie theater one day and was like, "We're gonna watch this thing called The Matrix," and I was just like blown away by like this, how this one idea could be this completely different idea. And so that idea of like, you know, high concept kind of, you know, luring the reader or the audience with this like false sense of security, and then just kind of flipping it on its ear, became something that was really interesting. And sci-fi allows you to do that the most. You know, people like, you know, Christopher Nolan with like Inception. Like what I like to do now is take sci-fi and mix it with a genre. Like that feels like, let's take like a Western and let's figure out how we can bring sci-fi elements into it while still honoring the Western genre. So I think that's kind of where my head's at with sci-fi. I really like to add as much sort of believability and have a real attention to detail. You know, if there's any science in it, I really want to study what the science is, and try to figure out how to find narrative elements for it. So I just feel like, you know, with great sci-fi, it really has a lot of believability, and I think that comes from a real grounded attention to detail.
100%. Yeah. I've written in sci-fi. As I said, horror fantasy is the comic I have right now. I'm the same age as Joshua. So the big influences for me would be more TV film, although I love Vonnegut and some of the authors you guys are name checked. It would be growing up in that Spielberg Lucas era when the sort of explosion of sci-fi fantasy films that happened in the 80s were so influential on me. I remember, I also remember going to see Star Wars when it opened, and when Empire Strikes Back was opening, my 5th grade teacher let me go out early to go get in line to buy tickets and get in line if I got a ticket for her as well. I remember that. And I would say the sort of twin influences for me in terms of science fiction and what excites me as a writer when I sit down to tell a story would be that, and then the Twilight Zone. I was obsessed with the Twilight Zone growing up. I had the Twilight Zone home companion, and I was like, you know, determined to watch every episode and stuff. And I feel like that is where a lot of my science fiction inspiration would come from. So, all right, but nobody, the classic EC Comics sci-fi. Does anybody Wally Wood or Al Feldstein, that's too specific for me. You know what I mean? Like I said, it comes more from a TV film inspiration personally. So
we're all writers here, so Wally Wood and Al Feldstein, best known for their art.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, no, I don't draw like that.
Right. No, but artists can be super, like Frank. What is it, Frazetta, who did all those fantasy things in the 1970s that almost like evoked that fantasy world even more than any epic could. I think that art can really, really be influential to me as a writer as well. Yeah, for sure.
And I with my horror stuff, I love a lot of those old EC horror comics and creepy and that kind of stuff. Because those were amazing. Those were horror comics that there's not much like it anymore.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and once more visit your pages. We'll talk about the comics. And anyone who's watching, we encourage you to stop on over at Kickstarter and check them out and pick them up because they're all great reads. Let me share the screen again. I'm going to share a window, and it's going to be this window. So this is the comic that we at 24/7 Comics have live right now. It's Zero Ghost. This is the collected edition of the first 3 issues. Kira Kane on a revenge kick in a world where magic is dominated by the criminal underworld. So check it out. That is a graphic novel collecting the first 3 issues, and issue 4 will be coming out later this year. And then we have Time Sensitive. Joshua, would you like to give your final summation of your comic?
5 more days. It is. It's if you like Zero Ghost, you'll like Time Sensitive. Definitely back both of them. It is gonna grab you and it's gonna suck you in the first few pages. Believe me, and you will not be able to put it down till you get to the end. People, I've written comments like, I'm sitting in the parking lot of a Walmart where I came after work, saw my digital issue, started reading, and now all of my groceries are melting in the back because I couldn't put it down. Another comment, a guy wrote to me, I wasn't going to back issue 2 till I started reading issue 1. I had backed it by page 4. By page 10, I was running to my wife to tell her the jackpot of Sci-Fi we had found. So people are really liking it. Issue 2 takes it in a whole other, not another direction, but takes it a lot deeper. Really goes into like how deep this conspiracy is and how dark it can go. And issue 3, I just finished writing. George is starting on it this week, and it is so heartbreaking. It's so emotional. So if you like a roller coaster ride that gives you the feels, it makes you think, and is a good adventure, I think you're going to dig this comic. And thank you for the stage, Francis. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Absolutely. And I'll mention one more time our cross promotion that we have going on for if you back both of our campaigns, the Time Sensitive and Zero Ghost. This is the exclusive cross-promotional print featuring our 2 heroines that's only available right now. 5 more days to back Time Sensitive. Our campaign has a little longer than that. And then you can pick up pick up this special.
It turned out so well. It looks so good.
Yeah, they're Brian and Will are such an amazing team.
Yeah,
and I'm excited with how it came out. All right, let's keep rolling. Let's talk about Daisy Cassidy. I'm going to share my screen to bring it up, and then go ahead, Nicholas, and you can give us your closing pitch.
Well, if you don't like to have fun, then don't read it. I mean,
it really is a roller coaster ride. It's very action. It is very quick read because it's very action oriented.
There was a point where a while had passed between my writing one issue and the next. And like I sat down, I was like, how am I going to remember these characters' voices? And it was just like back to life because these are some of the most fun characters I've ever written, and they have voices and they speak, and it's nothing but fun. And you give them a weird situation like being forced to perform theater, or getting taken aboard a Star Trek type ship where they discover they're the smartest people aboard, and it's nothing but excitement and fun.
It's
So,
a super fun, all
yeah.
ages.
I had so much fun
space
writing
opera.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantasy. All right. Thank you so much. Like you said, Buck Rogers. It feels like a kid in a Buck Rogers story. You know?
Yeah, here's a weird thing is that I was, getting way ahead of myself, getting stuff prepped for this, and I made the little iMovie Apple trailer out of it, and I put the Buck Rogers music under the trailer. So that's on there if you watch the video on the Kickstarter. And the very next day, Gil Gerard died, and I was like, wow. But so
yeah,
that was like, I felt like I had to share it right away, but
Yep.
it felt like really strange and timely. I don't know.
Well,
It meant something to me. The world was saying it's time for Daisy Cassidy.
That's right.
There we go. I've just taken advantage of Gil Gerard's death for profit.
All right, I'm gonna pass it to Tony to talk a little about your book, Star Noir.
Yeah. So if you love the X-Files, if you love old Hollywood cinema, this is right up your alley. This is a real love letter to both of these things. Everybody that reads it, they absolutely love it. While they love all the murder mystery and the aliens, they always comment on how human all the characters really feel. There, like I was saying before, there's a lot of believability in this world. So you can try out the first 9 pages of the first book for free. It's on the campaign page. Everyone that picks it up, they really come away loving it. It's been a real ride getting to make this series and watching it grow. And to go back to our digital discussion for a brief second, there is a catch-up tier that's digital only if that's your preference. So you can check that out.
And you have physical catch-up tiers as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, the Big Sleep there, the Polite Invitation, these
the
are
Big
physical.
Sleep, yes.
Yeah.
The Polite Invitation gives you the first book, but here the Big Sleep catches you up in the whole
all
thing.
4 books, yeah.
Wonderful. All righty. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining me. I'm going to have you stay in the live stream room, but that's it for our broadcast. Thanks, everybody, for watching and for the great comments. Stan 54321 and Biggerverse KFC and Hurricane for your questions, and we'll do this again soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to meet you guys. Total pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. You'd likewise.
Yeah.
Great to meet you guys. All right, I'm ending it now. Thank you guys for watching.
Bye.